Good afternoon, everyone. Today, my name is Samrudh Hegde Dessai, and I am a waste management professional working in the field of sustainability for the last 7, 8 years. Today, our session is going to be on green audits in campus with a special focus on how we can handle waste management. Uh, while discussing this topic, sustainability is being the buzzword of late in all forums. So we will start with a focus of brief introduction about what is sustainability, what is sustainable goals, how it is linked to green audits and green campuses, and then we'll look at how all of this can result in green campuses for universities or campuses, and with a little bit of focus on another major challenging topic, that is waste management. Let's start with a brief idea about sustainability. And there are many definitions which have been floating around about sustainability. What is sustainable? What is not sustainable? There are discussions held at international levels, at academic levels, at grassroots levels as to what is exactly sustainable development. Sustainable development, as defined by the United Nations Forum, one of the definitions of sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. By definition, this is very clear, which means that we need to not over exploit our resources so as to preserve them for the future generation. The current tendency among current generation is to run after a lot of greed, which is resulting into unnatural exploitation of natural resources. May that be minerals, may that be water, may that be biodiversity, in the name of expansion. And that has all resulted in the destruction of many facets of our human life. May it be environment, may it be social, may it be the quality of life that we discuss. So all this resulted into this development term called sustainable development, which basically means integration of environmental, social, human, and economic goals in policies and activities. Now, how did this term come about? What is the origin of this? When did it really started getting reflected on in the open forums or academic forums? Let's look at a brief history about uh, the sustainability and the uh, defined sustainable goals by the United Nations. As most of us will be aware, that United Nations is a forum where all countries discuss global issues. And in one of such conferences in 2012 on sustainable development, this focus on sustainable development was discussed among all countries, and they came about. There was the origin of defining sustainable development goals with thorough discussion among country members, different members, and different viewpoints from taken from all the members of the nations. It was adopted in 2015. The 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by all the countries. What were these Sustainable Development Goals? The Sustainable Development Goals were a set of universal goals. The moment we talk about environment or social or quality of life matter, it does not limit to any class or any specific country or specific region. That's why the definition was set of universal goals. So the whole universe needs to adopt to these sustainable goals. A set of universal goals that meet the urgent environmental, political, and economic challenges facing our world. And all in all, there were 17 United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals, which came to be known about as UNSDG. Uh, with the agenda that by 2030 they'll all nations adhering to these goals would be they will try to achieve these goals by the year 2030. And what were these goals? Now let's look at a set of goals that have been defined, and it was altogether 17 goals that were defined under these sustainable developmental goals. Now I've tried to I have kind of summarized all these goals into four major facets of our life, and then we will subsequently understand how they are important in terms of green audit and uh, to make your campuses green. So goal number one was defined as no poverty, which means in the on the planet Earth there would be no poverty which could be visible, which would be experienced by people, maybe of any class, any region, or any sector of people. Goal number two was hunger eradication, which meant uh, nobody would sleep hungry overnight. Nobody would be suffering from hunger in all regions of the world. Goal number three was good health and well-being, and goal number four was quality education. So these four goals were categorized or are categorized under a bigger facet of human life, that is the quality of life. So everybody on this planet deserves to a certain basic quality of life, and so these four goals were classified under as quality of life. Goal number five was then defines gender equality, which means there should be no discrimination among genders. All genders would be treated equally. Although there are 17 goals, since I have tried to classify them under four major facets, uh, we would not get the number. We are trying to classify those goal number would be different, but they will come under social category. The next such goal was goal number 10, which was reduced inequality or any kind of inequality among two races or two human beings, etc. So that was a part of social aspect of human life. Goal number 12 also meant responsible consumption and production, which meant uh, as a consumer, we need to be very responsible towards our consumption pattern. We need not over consume or waste anything which comes to our uh, which is in our purview. We need not waste anything. And goal number 16 was peace and justice, which ultimately meant strong institutions which can prevail related to social justice. So these goals were categorized under are categorized under another facet of life, which was social. The other two categories that I've tried to classify are the governance and the environment. So goal number 8, which meant about decent work and economic growth, uh, was related largely to the corporate governance, how work conditions are decent work conditions are provided to all kind of sector, maybe the organized sector, the unorganized sector, as much as try to organize the unorganized sector. Goal number 9 was industry, innovation, and infrastructure, which meant lot of scope for innovation, enough infrastructure to be provided for all kinds of distribution of schemes, maybe at government level, maybe at private level. Goal number 11 was sustainable cities and communities. Goal number 17 was partnerships to achieve these goals. So all these four goals, goal number 8, 9, 11, and 17, would be categorized under, would come under a certain facet of human life, that is governance. And the last and more relevant for our today's session is the environmental facet of sustainable development goals. Now, goal number 6 is clean water and sanitation, which meant every human being on this planet would have access to clean water, would have access to toilets, would have access to hygienic conditions by 2030. Goal number 7 would be affordable and clean energy, which obviously meant a reduction of our focus on clean energy, reduction in our focus on fuel energy, and move towards new and renewable energy like solar energy, wind energy, etc. And how to make this new or renewable energy affordable for everyone, how to move from the natural sources of energy or the fossil fuels towards the renewable sources of energy. Goal number 13 was our action on climate actions. As we see day in, day out, how climate changes are occurring due to our exorbitant usage of fossil fuels, the diesel vehicles, etc. So how we act towards providing actions which affect the climate adversely. Goal number 14 would be focusing on life below water, like taking enough care of aquatic life or life below earth, and how to protect the oceans, how to protect the aquatic life which is under. So all these five goals would come under environmental. The goal number 15 being life on land, which means all our flora, fauna, biodiversity, the animals, the forest, etc. How do we take care of? How do we all nations take care of these facets in their day-to-day actions? So all these uh, United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals, 17 of them, uh, were, I have classified them under four major headings, but our focus today would be on uh, environmental aspect, because we are talking, our topic today is green audit. And so we will try to see how, as colleges, or how as campuses, how as an educational institute, we can turn out how we can implement this last five goals of sustainable development. Now, as a part of this 17 United Nations Sustainable Goals, the Indian government, through its agency of the United University Grants Commission, or the NEC accreditation, all colleges go through this NEC accreditation every 3 years, every 5 years, how it is stipulated. And through this NEC accreditation goals, it has set certain parameters for campuses to go green. That's why these sustainability goals are somehow linked to your NEC accreditation. Uh, NEC and kind of enforces or kind of encourages campuses or institutions to go green by mentioning certain institutional values and best practices. Uh, Criteria 7 of the NEC accreditation focuses on following major key indicators, which means which are environmental consciousness and sustainability, percentage of power which is generated from alternate sources of energy, percentage of power from LED lights. These were when LED lights were now the NEC criteria would definitely undergo a review to include more and more technical developments which are occurring in this field. Waste management, how to manage waste, solid, liquid, e-waste. Water utilization, primarily through rainwater harvesting or wastewater reutilization, or through conserving wastewater by any which way it is possible. How to encourage plastic free campuses, bicycles, etc. by using. So these are all certain criteria which are given by a NEC to encourage colleges and campuses to turn green. And this, once the colleges try to achieve this, they are being funded with sufficient UGC grants or RUSA grants, which are the Rashtriya Uच्चतम Shiksha Abhiyan grants, and they are also entitled for a lot of financial donations if colleges take enough steps towards meeting these green standards. So this is criteria 7 of NEC, which is encouraging the movement towards green sector. So now let's come to the main subject of our presentation. With its background, we will be able to understand what is green audit. Okay. Uh, so now green audit, the term green obviously denotes environmental, indicates environment, and audit means a reviewing process of college. So a green audit essentially means step-by-step reviewing process, identification, quantification, analysis and reporting of environment assessment of site, which means at any given state you have to identify what is your current environmental situation, quantify. We will come to in subsequent slides, we will come to know what exactly we are talking about: quantifying, identification, analysis and reporting of environmental assessment. This is very, very impactful for developing an eco-friendly balance. Now, grid audit of a campus is very, very vital to guarantee best environment and healthy ecosystem. This is how green audit is generally defined. By the very definition, then, the focus on environment with the focus on a certain amount of green focus to convert your campuses green, it necessarily covers primarily below 4 areas. As the purview of the audit increases, it could tackle many more, like health aspects of larger health aspects and surrounding areas of students, etc. But at the primary stage of green audit of campus, it could cover water management, it covers energy management, it is covers biodiversity and waste management. These are the four largely main sectors that any green audit is encouraged to cover. So let's look at each of these in a separate, with a little bit of breakdown of each. Meanwhile, let's understand what is green audit a little further. So a green audit basically means an assessment of an activity or an institution in terms of its impact on environment. Very simply, you have to understand how much your campus or your institution is paying attention of its activities on environment. For example, a college campus might be running a canteen. A college campus might be procuring a lot of paper. It might be requiring huge amount of water. So when you look at all these resources, the basic idea of the audit is to understand uh, the current situation as far as all these natural resources are concerned. So obviously, when there is a canteen, there would be food consumed. Then you look at how to, then there would be LPG consumption when you are obviously managing a canteen. There would be a diesel consumption because of frequent vehicle movement, which may be required within the campus, buses, etc., plying within the campus. So the idea of the green audit is to identify all these activities and its impact on environment. So basically, once the green audit is done, it enables an institution to systematically document the existing status of various natural resources. So when we say, when you're looking at water as one of the natural resource, and we look at what is your current consumption, the basic idea is to identify what is the current water consumption, and we'll come to that. So as a green audit, you are looking at systematically documenting the existing status of various natural resources, take a stock of its performance with respect to waste, energy, biodiversity, water. So you look at how you are treating your current waste, how much is your waste generation. You look at what is your current energy consumption. You look at how the where is the current energy pattern being used, which are your areas of maximum energy consumption, what is the kind of biodiversity which is present in your campus, what is the status as far as the previous 10 years go, has the biodiversity increased or it has come down, whether the green zone in your campus is reduced over a period of time, or it is with the future plans of the university or a campus, will it going to go will it go further down, or how to preserve the current level of biodiversity, or if possible how to increase it. So these are some of the facets of a green audit. It takes stock of its performance with respect to waste, energy, biodiversity, and water. Find potential opportunities for conservation of energy, water biodiversity. So once you have identified the current level of consumption, current level of consumption of energy, consumption of water, what is your current waste disposal methods, find opportunities to conserve energy, water, biodiversity, etc., and reducing or managing your waste better. The fourth step in this, the facet of this green audit is to once it helps you prepare a green campus plan and design conservation programs over years to come. So one of the part of biodiversity audit is to identify what is the green area within the campus and then identify to preserve it or even to extend it. It also enables the institution to use the audit report as a baseline to review progress periodically. It also, and the major aspect one which has to remember is, since the academic institution is a place for the young minds of students, it helps raise tremendous awareness about the environmental conservation. So these are basically the benefits of green audit. Now let's look at how do we go about doing a green audit. Not being a college campus, most of the teachers, non-teaching staff are busy in their day-to-day activities. But so most colleges have often chosen to take a method of hiring a consultant or getting a professional to do green audits. But there is a very simple process of green audit, and it could be done by forming a team of within the college campus, which is largely the self-assessment rather than engaging some professionals or expressing. That is another way, or there's another option. If colleges find it difficult to engage with respect to time and with respect to the amount of responsibilities they possess, they can always engage an external auditor. But it's a self-assessment within the college would always be a better option, non-costly option. So the process would be formation of a team, basically including management representatives, coordinators among the team between the teaching and non-teaching staff, and identifying students who are interested in this area and making them champions of this green audit process. Then, once the basic team is formed, the later formation of sector-wise groups who could work on energy, water, waste, etc. This group then would work on these specific areas to identify with the self-assessment. Go ahead with the self-assessment. Setting up of scope and targets of audits. So once the team is formed, the next target is to have what is the scope of within the limited period time frame of the audit. The audit cannot be a perennial process, so you need to set a time frame of maybe 2 months or 3 months to get all these activities organized and define the scope. Not everything may be possible within the self-assessment possibly, and not everything may be possible within an year's time. So it's a continuous process, but a basic scope of work and targets of audit may be set during this first phase of green audit. Then the next step in this green audit is completion of this audit task. as outlined. So once you form the groups, you identify the task, and then go ahead with going about identifying what are the consumption patterns, etc., which we will look at in the next slides, and compile all the findings. Do a very solid review among peers and with the other uh, faculty members, and to understand and share observations of the other groups within this uh, uh, whole team of green audit. Collection of supporting data, which is a very very important process. So when you do audit, it has to be supported with data, photo maps, etc., when required. For example, when you are doing a biodiversity audit, a Google map of a college campus 10 years back and now could always help you understand what is the impact of your activities on the green zone. So that would a very very supporting document for when you're working with a concept of biodiversity, etc. One of the major impacts or idea behind green audit is to and now with the new national education policy also, is the community outreach that institutes have to do. So green audit also helps you conduct uh, of outreach of community outreach programs, because you are not living in isolation. There are surrounding communities which are uh, being affected with your activities, or the activities of surrounding areas, communities are affecting your operations. So it's important that we strike a eco-friendly balance among uh, the surrounding community, and that's why the conduction of community outreach program is actually important. And finally, the preparation of report and submission to the college management uh, to act upon certain things, and a regular review of this audit process. So this is basically a process how you go about doing a green audit. Very essentially, is a one way of following your uh, process of doing a green audit for your campus. Now let's break down into very small steps about how do we go about energy audit, how do we go about water audit, we will go about biodiversity, etc. Very broadly, we will try to understand how do we, kind of implement all what we have spoken in a breaking it down into smaller activities. So a group which is handling the energy audit, um, among all the other groups, needs to understand what are the sources of energy that you are using within the campus, and what are the electrical loads, etc., which are being currently being used in the campus. So, for example, there are different sources of energy that you may be using in a campus. You might be using the basic electricity, which is coming from grid, which is ultimately produced from fossil fuels, diesel through either diesel generator, or through frequent usage of using some firing some burners in your labs, etc. LPG in your canteen, LPG in your labs sometimes, and different kinds of energy. You might be using mm, diesel for using a generator, for example, and many such any other potential sources of energy that you are using a campus need to be identified. The next step while doing the energy audit is to understand uh, study of energy meters and electricity bills. So, a campus is a huge facility. It includes different departments, different functional blocks. For example, it will have a classrooms, it would have admin blocks, gym, labs, area lighting, common area lighting, which needs to be continued even during night time. So. A study of energy meters, different electricity meters, and electricity bill will show a trend in consumption of electricity. It would also give you an inventory of connected electrical loads. So, with this basic study, one would understand where is the campus, where is the college consuming more electricity, where is the college consuming more diesel, etc. And all once this is identified, then we move towards the next step. Once the evaluation is done, once the energy evaluation is done, we need to look at uh, where is the potential to move towards green source. So once, for example, once the electricity bills are understood, once the electricity consumption is understood, uh, I know of college campuses consuming huge amount of power because of their functionalities, because of their uh, not largely because of uh, a certain unproductive area, not related educational area like gyms or labs which is not planned properly, so they consume huge amount of energies. So once we understand the energy consumption, the next step is to evaluate uh, how can we, is it possible to convert some of this to renewable sources of energy. Is there a potential for solar energy to be introduced uh, in the campus? So solar potential is one of the solar energy is one of the most hot sources of energy right now. Hot in the sense of being in vogue. Many campuses are turning towards solar energy because it is providing the benefit. The central government, many state governments are constantly encouraging the use of solar energy by providing subsidies to the institutions, by providing additional benefits to the institutions, etc. So broadly, some may say this is not a this is a scope of a very technical person, but to make it very simple, in the first phase of green audit, we have tried to create a very small points how to go about solar potential. One is the identify possible rooftop space or open area to install solar panels. So in the campus, you can identify is there any rooftop space available for open area to install solar panels, preferably with south, southwest, or southeast location. So you can use your Google Map, or now with advanced technologies, so somebody, a student who might be operating a drone, can give you a top view of your college campus, and preferably south, southwest, southeast locations are suitable for um, generating solar energy. Evaluate total possible area available for solar installations, and and calculating a general photovoltaic potential. If you have a 10 square meter of area which is facing south or southwest or southeast, you can generate up to 1.2 to 1.5 kilowatt of solar power on a very broad basis. It could be less and more with variation, with little bit of uh, as per site condition, little bit of variation in the site condition, but broadly, uh, in the first phase, you can at least evaluate is there a potential for solar space and present it to the management, and verification by actual site visit. So all this exercise, once it is done through Google Map or some visual inspection, it can be verified by actual site visit of the roofs, whether you actually have that space or to mount solar panels, etc. So this is one of the major focus areas uh, among all governments, among um, all nations, among all states. There is a consistent move towards renewable source of energy, and one of them being solar. So this presents a huge potential for any college campuses. Second option of evaluation of renewable sources of energy is considering a possibility of biomass or biomethanation. So, what is biomethanation? Is a gas produced. We'll look at that option. We'll look at understand as biogas as a separate slide in the next few slides when we come to waste management. But at this stage, it's important to understand biogas is an effective replacement for reduction on LPG. So you can evaluate the current LPG consumption, evaluate the organic waste generation on daily basis, like food waste, whatever vegetable waste or leftovers that is generated through the canteen. Uh, to give you an example, a campus with only 1,000 students can generate close to 100 kg of food waste on a daily basis, which can provide you almost 10 kg of LPG every day. So this is just to indicate every 10 kg of food waste can generate almost 1 kg of LPG equivalent. So there is enough potential to move towards uh, biogas or biomethanation as your renewable source of energy. So then once you understand the organic waste generation. You can similarly, like a solar potential, you can evaluate the possibility of installation of a biogas units. There are different kinds of biogas units that are now available, and many colleges have installed biogas units to meet their certain amount of their LPG requirements, and it's a very great step towards moving towards a green campus. Evaluate possibility of installing biomass based if the campus has lot of garden waste or uh, wood waste like coconut trees, etc. There is a potential of using that firewood by installing latest biomass based cookers, which can save LPG in a substantial way. So this is another way of doing the energy. The second part of the energy entire green audit is the biodiversity audit. Now, the purpose of biodiversity audit is to document the biodiversity within the campus and preserve it from further depletion. Our actions by default are more of expansion nature. So we need to understand that, preserving what biodiversity is very, very essential, which means flora, fauna, insects, small animals that are residing within the campus, by taking enough care of health and safety. In this, since it's a subject related to zoology and botany department, they team members from those two departments could be involved. Study the green area in the campus over period. So, as I suggested earlier, you can use Google Maps to understand the status of your campus 5 years back, 10 years back, and today's situation, and then understand what has been the impact on the green area within your campus, whether it has increased, whether it has decreased, or it is stagnant. uh, and that would be a good point to start with about preserving for future generations. One of the major idea behind biodiversity audit is to make a list of fruit trees, timber plants, medicinal plants, ornamental plants, etc. within your campus, and identify endangered species if any, so that all these biodiversity aspects are considered and preserved for the near future, or for the future generation and the next batches to come. Now let's look at in brief two of very important aspects. One is water, and the second is waste. Now, it is being said that the next world war, if any, uh, would be uh, would be on a requirement of water. In India itself, there are many states which are going against each other for the usage of water. So when you're doing a water audit for your campus, it's very important to treat it very seriously, because the water which you have to understand, there are only two sources of water which has pure water. One is the rainwater and second is the groundwater. So we have to understand and evaluate sources of water, uh, whether it is coming from open well, whether it is coming from bore well, or whether you are getting all the water from a government supply, which necessarily means uh, through a treatment plant through government, which is a very, very costly affair for a government, and to maintain it and to run it, etc. So to be self-dependent, how we can become self-reliable in water is a major focus of water audit. Once we evaluate the sources of water, then we identify the consumption of water uh, to each resource, simply by putting a small water meter if it is possible, or even through simple physical calculation. Sometimes it is possible with the flow rate, etc., or making uh, some arrangements of scientific instruments. We can measure the water through each source, how much water we are consuming through the government supply. Obviously, the government supply will be with the water meter, but we have simple techniques to measure what is your open well water consumption, or a bowl well water consumption, by putting measurement tanks, etc. So once the sources are identified, we need to look at Are there any wastage or leakage points where water is going without any proper usage? So that's how water audit, one of the essential aspect of water audit is to identify leakages. And then once this aspect is cleared, we look at, once we have the documentation of our sources of water, what is the consumption of water, we look at different options of potential of conservation of water. One is major to rainwater harvesting through groundwater harvesting, where when I say rainwater harvesting, primarily through rooftop rainwater harvesting. Secondly, through groundwater harvesting through the surface groundwater recharging, and how best we can use the wastewater at least for gardening purpose, or at least for purposes there it can be used. The least we can do is to ensure that we are not contaminating the groundwater by taking enough care that water which goes into ground through after usage is not polluted, or is not uh, in a condition where it cannot be, where it is contaminating the groundwater table. So let's look at different options of water conservation. And one of the major uh, and a very simple method of conserving water is through rainwater harvesting. Uh, Most of you might have come across the term rainwater harvesting, which means basically uh, channelizing one of the purest source of water, which is rain, and to use it in such a way that most of the runoff to oceans is avoided, especially where the water is in scarcity. You need to understand, and you have to provide systems to conserve and augment storage of groundwater without letting it to run too far to the nearest water body. So the campus itself can look at simple rainwater harvesting techniques. So why rainwater harvesting is, it conserves and augments storage of groundwater. It reduces water table depletion, basically because you are recharging the water. Since rain is the purest form, the more you recharge rainwater into the ground, by the very principle of dilution, it improves the quality of groundwater. It avoids, uh, it completely helps to avoid floods and stagnation in urban areas once you are doing rainwater harvesting. So these are primarily the reasons why one has to look at rainwater harvesting purpose, even in their other areas of field like their personal life or wherever they are associated. But make a campus green, and one of the major, the term which we associate green is uh, with the number of trees or green cover, and water presents, water is the main source of keeping your campus green in a very true sense. So you need to conserve as much water as possible. Here is a very schematic diagram I've indicated to how rainwater harvesting could be done. So you have two kinds of rainwater systems, rainwater harvesting system. One is straight away from the rooftop, which means any building campus, whatever shape it may be, whatever is the location, it will have catchment area of that roof. That rooftop can be captured and diverted to ground. And the second option is the remaining area which are apart from the building, that also can act as a catchment area, and we need to channelize it in such a way that all this water goes into recharge pits through proper control. So let's look at two these different ways of rainwater harvesting parallelly. So you have a rooftop system where all the catchment area is connected to the filter bed. So very simply, you collect all the rainwater systems, rainwater through channelizing them properly, pass it through the filter bed, and the best option is to straightforward, take it right bottom to the percolation pit or open well or bore well. So you have this, after collecting the rainwater, you pass it through the filter and recharge it through the open well or percolation pit or bore well. This is the best possible option, because you might see in the picture there is another diversion which is shown as towards consumption. Now Having a consumption tank or storage tank in rainwater could be slightly tricky because you can have a consumption tank, storage tank only if it is possible to use that water for any application which does not use pure water in the rains, because in the rains by default you are getting water. So you can the size of tank, how much to be created, is always a challenge, because uh, looking at the consumption patterns of rains, you can create a 10,000 liter tank, but 10,000 liter will go in within no time. So the tank itself per se may become non-utilized over a period of rest of the period where monsoon is not there or where rains are not there. So the best preferred way is to recharge into the ground to increase the groundwater table conditions. But the second best option, if you can, and side by side, on a case to case basis, we can also look at consumption. And similar process is followed for a paved or unpaved surface runoff. So all this water which runs down the drain needs to be collected, of chamber where all the silt is trapped. The water is then passed through filter bed, and the similar pattern of usage is recommended. So only change in the paved and unpaved surface runoff is you need to have a siltation chamber, because in the open runoff there could be many physical particles that may pass through along with the water, whereas in the rooftop the possibility of this physical dirt etc is less. And that's why generally rooftop harvesting is um, easier and more preferred. It does not include too many hassles to do a rainwater harvesting. And neither does the paved block, but managing rooftop rainwater harvesting is much easier as per my experience. So what are the components of rooftop rainwater harvesting then is the catchment area. One is the catchment area, that is the potential you have for collecting the rain. The second is the transportation, as in once you collect all the rain at through the gutters or through whatever channels, transport it to the point where you want to recharge. This first flush system is generally recommended for the rooftop system, where because on the rooftop, since there is no access, there could be few bird droppings or dirt that has accumulated over a period of time, and that needs to be flushed out in the first rains. So you have a first flush system. Then you either have a storage system or a delivery system, and the filtration system before you infiltrate the water into the ground. So these are basically the system. Basically, once you have seen the previous drawing, more or less, it is simple. The second aspect of water conservation. See, one of the while we are talking about rainwater harvesting and conserving your water to recharge, etc., one of the uh, easier ways, I could say, or one of the aspects which we have often neglected is how to possibly reuse our wastewater. How can we use it at least for purposes that are not so critical, like gardening, etc., and how can we use this water for making our campuses green. So water is generally classified into three simple types. The very basic definitions which I'm sharing. One is the sewage water, which includes human excreta, which is in the term so wastewater management is classified as black water. Wash water from bathrooms and kitchen is generally classified as gray water because it doesn't contain the excreta, human biological waste. And the wastewater from labs or processes which are uh, being done at certain factories, etc., is called effluent water. So these are three types of wastewater. Most college campuses, you are looking at black and gray water utilization. So there's a simple schematic diagram which we have picked up is to how to use gray water for utilization. Gray water need not go into the ground without its uh, proper utilization. It can ultimately, water can go into the ground, but it needs to get a little more purified, because when you're using a wash basin, you are probably using soaps and chemicals to wash your hands. Uh, and that's why it is important that you are trying to filter them out naturally as much as possible before the water goes into the ground. And there are certain types of plants like a banana tree, which have been shown in our, which has been a part of our ancestral, wastewater management systems. If you could see a banana or a papaya tree at the backyards, always where our wastewater used to go, these trees absorb as much as content, acidic content, and then allow the pure water to go inside the ground. So this is a very simple diagram. You have a wash basin. Uh, you have all the water going through the wastewater pipe, and then you can see at the bottom uh, there is a separation which happens naturally through different means like mulch. You can put gravel, you can put sand, certain amount of sand, etc., to allow it to filter before it goes into the ground. So this is a simple schematic diagram or a layout of how wastewater, grey water could be utilized. The second way we can use a black water utilization is, black water is more, although it contains human excreta, we will know by as we go, it may, the biological content is much more easier to treat because there are organic contents. It's ultimately the food that we have eaten. So there are bacteria, there are microorganisms which thrive on this human excreta, and they make it into a richer compost. So here is a way of using that. It is a photo we have experimented in one shack. All this water after bacterial treatment gives much cleaner water, and it is used for using used for gardening purpose, which can give you very very good growth in certain plants. So these are some ways of treating wastewater. And then we come to the another major aspect of our today's session, which is the waste audit. So the purpose of today's session is only to brief you all about major aspects so that you are familiar with all the concepts. So when you do like a water audit, uh, the waste audit would also involve similar pattern. You have to do systematic study of waste from generation to disposal. You will have department-wise, area-wise study of waste, and then identify different types of waste. So while on this topic of waste management, we will slightly delve little into waste management, how it is being done over the state, over the country, and then understand how it could be done, what could be implemented in the colleges. So in 2016, the government came about, government brought forward the solid waste management rules, uh, which specify different kinds of waste. So there is a wet waste, there is organic waste, there is a dry waste, there is a domestic hazardous waste, which is the medicinal waste that you use, or sanitary pads or diapers, which are classified as domestic hazardous waste. There's a biomedical waste, which is generated largely in hospitals and clinics, dispensaries, etc. There is a construction and demolition waste, which is arising out of mostly projects which involve cement, concrete, etc. And there is a horticulture waste, which is the garden waste when you have lots of trees and gardens around. So the mandates of solid waste management rules mention that you should not litter. There should be, these are the mandates for the local bodies. By the 2016 rules mandates your local body, like the municipality or panchayat, wherever you are located, to manage your waste within, even within your campus, at least the dry waste. So we'll look at what are the different streams later on. So how do you go about effective waste management is when everyone knows it's segregation at source, which plays a very very important role in managing waste. So you need to segregate wet and dry, at least the basic two-way segregation. Storage at source, the dry waste storage needs to be looked at least for a week, because the local bodies are mandated to come, the panchayat or the municipalities are mandated to come only once or twice a week or even once in a fortnight in certain areas. So you need to have a storage facility for at least a week. Keep daily dry and wet waste separately in two bins so that there is no mixing. And keep domestic hazardous and C&D waste separately as and when generated within your house. So these are very simple four basic tenets of waste management. Now, how does a college campus look for ways of collection? Uh, that's why I'm trying to link what is currently possible and what the college can do. So currently, the waste management process is largely dependent on your local body. The primary collection has to be done by your panchayat or a local body who is in which jurisdiction you fall, the campuses fall. So there is a door-to-door collection by municipal authority or its agency, uh, and waste generators to deposit waste in a community bin. Those are the two options which are followed by the local municipal bodies or panchayats. But over a period of time, the option two hasn't worked very much. So most panchayats or most local bodies, most municipalities have preferred the first option of coming door to door and picking up waste. So this is the ideal. This is the statutory requirement. This is how the waste management should function in any given city or a village. So how they will collect is collection of segregated wet and dry waste from source, collection of mixed dry waste from source of segregation, and contaminated recycle intermediate session. So basically what it's trying to tell is once you segregate dry and waste, the local body will come to your place and shift both these kinds of waste. What are the 6 streams that the local bodies are mandated to take your waste? Uh, they have been classified under 6 streams. Stream 1 is the biodegradable or a wet waste, uh, which means the local body has to come daily to your place to collect doorstep in separate vehicles or compartments and directly deliver at processing facilities which the panchayat has or a local body has to set up, municipality. It could be a composting facility, it could be a biomethanation facility, it could be a waste to energy plant. So all these waste, stream 1 will be only biodegradable, which needs to be collected on a daily basis. Stream 2, where the body is mandated to collect, is the dry waste, which is uh, all kinds of dry waste like plastic, glass bottle, cardboard, all the recyclables, non-recyclables, all kind of waste. But here it is the local body is mandated to take it even once in a week or once in a fortnight, also by certain parameters which they are free to do. Ideally, it should be done at least once in a week. But this is the current mode of operation for many campuses in certain cities. Stream 3 is through street sweeping and silt. So whatever is generated through the street sweeping and silt from the drain, etc., needs to be stored separately. Domestic hazardous waste like the diapers, napkins that are generated within your campus need to be stored separately, and they need to be sent to the medical biomedical facility. Now here we come to then the stream 5 is the construction and demolition waste. This waste gets generated when you are doing any new construction or when any modification is happening. So all the ceramic waste or the tiles waste or the concrete waste is classified as construction and demolition waste, and it has to be stored separately by the generator, and that the local body is mandated to take it away as per the prescribed fees. And similarly is the concept for horticulture and garden waste. Now, why I'm sharing all this is because this is how currently things are working, where the local body is supposed to take. But by the very nature of our society or our the way our local bodies function, uh, to truly turn green. To move towards green energy as colleges or educational institution, we need to move towards managing most whatever is possible within the campus. And I'll come to the next point of responsibility of a generator. So this is, as a college campus, you would also be generating certain amount of waste. So your role is to hand it over to the first role is to hand it over till you create a facility of your own. Your role as an institute is to hand over this waste to waste pickers, waste collectors, and then pay user fee as per prescribed by the law, and keep CND waste and horticulture waste separately as and when required. Now, in the solid waste management rule, there is uh, a, a separate concept or a separate identification for someone called bulk waste generator. Now, a bulk waste generator is any institution which has 5,000 square meter area or which generates about 50 kg total waste per day. Now, different states have different guidelines. For example, to Goa, where I reside, the state of Goa has identified any generator who generates 25 kg of waste per day is classified as bulk waste generator. The municipal bylaws and the panchayat bylaws say that anybody who generates 25 kg per day is termed as a bulk waste generator. And his responsibility is to dispose of biodegradable waste within premises. Although there is a bracketed, it is as far as possible. But most college campuses, it is very, very feasible and very, very easy to treat organic waste within their campuses. And most colleges, campuses, by the very default, if either of the criteria, either through the 5,000 square meter criteria or the 50 kg criteria, would come under bulk waste generator nomenclature. And so they have to manage their own wet waste, own organic waste. And there are many other ways to manage your other kind of waste. So let's look at, once we have understood these different kinds of waste streams, as a college campus, you might not come across too much of construction debris waste, construction demolition waste, because not too much of construction, only once in a while you'll get there. You can use the local body mandate. When you have a biomedical waste, very rare, less chances of biomedical waste being generated. And e-waste also, there are separate guidelines because it is not a regular generated pattern. So when you're looking at green campus, you are primarily looking at wet waste, the organic food waste, the general dry waste, which is plastic, rubber, glass, bottles, etc., and a proper disposal of them, and primarily the wet waste. So categories of waste, we have wet waste, which is food waste, vegetable waste, food leftovers, etc. Then the dry waste are classified into two types of recyclables and paper, cardboards, are glass, Tetra Pak, etc. are recyclables. There are non-recyclables, which are like leather shoes, rubber waste, broken glass, ceramic, etc. Ceramic cups, etc., which are non-recyclable. And then there are domestic hazardous waste, sanitary napkins, CND waste, which you have referred again. So as a campus, we need to have a proper treatment system for setting up of all disposal of waste, primarily the wet waste and dry waste as far as they are concerned. So we will, in the coming slides, look at few options quickly of disposing your wet waste scientifically. But before that, let's look at a very typical concept of waste hierarchy, which most of us by now know, but still it makes relevance to remind us every time. So what is the preferred way of waste hierarchy? So the best way is of having waste management is prevention. So you buy only as much as you need. So you are all of us know the 3 R's of waste management, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle, which means reducing the waste, reusing as much as possible, and recycling. But there are many R's which are getting added, like prevention is can happen by refusing what is not required by campus. So you need not procure something extra, or you can say no to something which you don't need, because ultimately then it becomes a waste. So this is a preferred waste hierarchy chart, which we often refer in the waste management professional area. So this is the waste hierarchy. So when we are looking at waste treatment, we are primarily looking at wet waste treatment, And because not every campus can have a facility for dry waste treatment, most of the dry waste is recyclable. So it only makes it point of storage and disposal ethically. But whereas for the wet waste, which is a major issue for to treat it at community level or to treat it at larger level, nobody should be handling somebody else's waste. And as you see, in a place where the land is restricted, in a smaller states, etc., this becomes very problematic if you don't treat your wet waste within your campus. So we are looking at very quickly three options of wet waste treatment. One is composting. Composting is a process of biodegradation or decomposition of organic waste in a very controlled conditions like temperature, moisture, material composition, and size of the matter, etc. So composting provides a very simple mechanism for treating waste, and uh, there are different ways of compost. So we'll look at a few different ways of composting. Compost is organic matter. As output of composting process, what output you get is compost, and which is termed as the gardener's gold or the black gold because of the value of keeping soil healthy. So it is a key ingredient in organic farming and is often used for landfill cover and reclaiming land which is unfertile. So infertile. So composting is a very handy process. Many campuses can adopt on a composting process within their campuses and can also enable communities to adopt this process. Quickly run through the composting, different types of composting. One is aerobic, second is anaerobic, which is also called as biomethanation. Third is vermicomposting, and fourth is vermicomposting. Aerobic is where you use air as a media for uh, degrading the material, which requires frequent turning around. So, although this is the most simplest of techniques, um, it has high potential when there is cost limitations. Uh, Only thing it requires is a regular turning, which means regular monitoring of the system. So aerobic composting is a uh, one of the most simplest in terms of knowledge wise. It doesn't require too much of scientific knowledge, etc. But once you practice it, it could be utilized even at community level. So in a college campus you can have different modes of composting. One is aerobic. The second one is using worms. You can create simple vermicomposting bed, and this is more suitable for converting your garden waste or horticulture waste into compost. Most often, this is used for garden waste or the raw vegetable waste. Uh, Not so much recommended for cooked waste, etc. So these are different second type of composting where worms are used as the composting mechanism. The third one is composting, where more lesser known technology, but uh, where we have insects known as black soldier larva, black soldier fly, etc. They are the ones who act upon the waste, and it's a more natural process. You don't have to do too much of activity except for creating suitable conditions for mega. They are harmless insects, not like very polluting insects like houseflies, etc. Black soldier flies are harmless flies and they thrive on converting waste into compost. So these are three ways of composting which broadly can be experimented within the college campus. And these are the different stages of following the composting. You uh, prepare, get all the waste, segregate the dry waste into, segregate the waste from wet and dry, whatever dry particles are mixed, you remove. Uh, Try to shred it into smaller pieces and convert it into compost and try to market it to local farmers, etc., by giving them some additional at lesser rate compared to market rates, etc. These are some of the different options which can be followed for home composting or even campus composting. They are very simple techniques. These are just to share what could be done. And at a community level, as a part of community reach, colleges can extend this help with the knowledge of their uh, botany department or a zoology department or environmental division to set up community composting pits as a part of their extension. We look at one more, since we are looking at green campus, we are looking at, we look at one more option of treating wet waste, which is being now adopted by many campuses, many institutions, which is converting the food waste into a clean and efficient eco-friendly fuel called biogas, which is largely methane up to 65%, and it is safer than LPG because it is stored at lesser pressure. One of the biggest advantage is it is a clean fuel. It has a almost similar value to high calorific value as compared to LPG. It can be supplied through pipelines, and it's one of the fuel which is very adaptable, very similar to LPG. So when you're talking about diesel usage of firewood, LPG has been one of the most simple adaptations for fuel for household cooking. Now biogas is the next easy adaptation. It doesn't change the methodology of end user, so, and it comes from waste. So biogas presents a very green alternative for campuses to turn into green, to move towards green fuel. How does biogas gets produced? It gets produced in absence of air. The organic waste, when the partially anaerobic conditions, the microorganisms act to release methane, and the organic residue left is also a good manure. So you can simple the impact of biomethanation can be seen. So if you 1 ton of your waste produces 2-4 times of as much methane in 3 weeks in controlled environment of biogas if it was left in landfill. So all your waste, if it is currently going to a landfill, uh, to degrade it will take almost 6-7 years to produce methane, the gas, whereas in controlled form of a proper biogas plant, it can just generate. So you can see the amount of space conservation which you can do by setting up a biogas plant within your campus, uh, by avoiding it your waste going to landfill. So this biogas presents a very very rich alternative for waste management. It helps farmers, or it helps when installed in certain places where firewood is still being used in remote areas. It could be used to convert towards a very clean fuel, and it is a better use of waste. So these are advantages of biogas. So these are application areas of biogas. And this is how a typical 1 or 2 biogas plants uh, look like. A typical model of one technology called KVIC technology, where you have a very simple input, and the output of it goes to a stove, and another output is the biogas manure. This is another technology which is now taking prevalence in India, which is the home biogas technology, which we could use for converting into biogas. So we will just, at the last segment of this presentation, we'll just look at one project which as a college campus, which you can as a part of, once your campus is turned green, you can look at community extension, which is a part of your whole campus, which is which have certain marks in your NAC accreditation, etc. So we look at one project which we did to inculcate this facet among students, where we did a project with case study which we did with students of a school. But this can be replicated in colleges, this can be replicated in any kind of educational institutions. So this is about a flower waste project which we did in 2019, which we were a part of, and where we tried to involve a school in preventing the flower waste going into water bodies. because the flower today is chemically preserved to last for longer areas, and when it goes into along with the flower, a lot of plastic material, lot of threads, lot of other aspects which are decorative parts along with that flower waste, when it is presented to deities, goes into the water bodies. So we created a small leaflet, and we kind of created awareness every household in a particular locality. We also targeted certain centrally organized Ganesh Puja pandals where which were generating the waste, and created awareness among each. We created setups where they could drop the flower waste at the immersion points, so that waste could be the flower waste could be deposited by the devotees. And we set up composting facilities in one of the school which was a part of this project, and we involved students in the entire process, where they learned about composting, they learned about how this whole mechanism works, and the output was almost 1.5 tons of flower waste was accumulated and converted into compost, and the compost was given to this very families which helped us in the whole project. So I tried to achieve a circular sort of model where the waste was being so I'm just pointing this out so that educational institutes could engage in more such innovative projects where student communities are involved, where communities are being part of the entire green process. So the impact of this project was almost 900 students and their families were involved. Uh, More than 200 families delivered their flower waste. Uh, more than 1,500 kilos of flower waste was accumulated only in 7 days, and that resulted in huge amount of compost and a big impactful project for the community around. Uh, the point of this waste management thing is it is a daily process, it is an annual process. So we need to constantly work towards sustainability. Educational institutes need to play more and more active role uh, towards setting up such plants, making a demo kind of models within the campus, and then make community extension to kind of set up more and more green projects uh, in the surrounding community. So with this I end my presentation. Thank you very much.